Hey everybody, glad to have you with us. If you are subscribed to the show, you know it's been a while since we have had any new episodes. So we're going to introduce you to what's been going on, and we're going to update you with kind of where we're headed. So if you're new to Behind the Mic Conversations of Hope, thank you for checking us out, and we hope you enjoy the show. We want to give you a little bit of background as to why the show exists and where we're headed. But first, I want to introduce you to my wife, who has put up with me for 34 years. This is Tammy. Tammy actually, she really enjoys being in front of the camera. She really enjoys speaking. And actually, I had to drag her on here, but I really believe that she, you know, we've been married 34 years, and I relied on you an awful lot to kind of help balance me. So when things are
done a good job.
So when things are going on, there have been times when you were like, I really don't think this is what God wants us to do. And so you've helped to balance me, and I think you can bring balance to the podcast as well. So anyway, 34 years.
34 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Seems just like that to me. So, yeah, I asked Tammy if she would join us because she's kind of been the behind-the-scenes supporter of the show in many ways over the last couple of years. I had a lot of ideas over the years, and most of them probably have not been great. But
baseball cards.
Yeah, a lot. We don't need to discuss the past. We are redeemed. So, yeah, I'm a dreamer and a creative person. I like to just come up with new things, new ideas. And so she's supported this podcast over the last couple of years wholeheartedly. I think that you've seen God moving in this, in talking to people who have been listening, people who've been encouraged by it. And so we want to talk about where we've been over the past 10 months. Because it came to a screeching halt like in September. And then we had one with Kurt Beach. We did in November because kind of things were kind of a little bit in limbo, and we were able to get that show recorded with Kurt and his daughter. And but since then, we've had nothing. So we've got some new things happening on the show. We want to tell you what's new, where we've been, and where we're headed. And that's the color commentary. You can see why I want her on the show. So what are we doing right now? Some of the new things.
So, as far as the podcast,
yeah. As far as the podcast goes, what are some new things that are happening that we haven't done in the past?
We haven't done in the past. You have a new cover image.
We do,
which is very cool. I like it.
We wanted to do something. I mean, I created the logo. Of course, there's things that I would change, but I want to stick with the logo. But I wanted to add some color to it. I've been asked the question, if it's Conversations of Hope, why is it black and white? Doesn't seem real hopeful. Black is not a real hopeful color, but there's a reason behind that. Part of that is because we live in a dark world, and Jesus really is the only hope in our lives. And I wanted to put some yellow and some stuff in it, but it just didn't look right. So I went with just the black and white. It also looks great on a T-shirt, which we'll have available sometime down the road. But we wanted to add a little bit of color on there, and so I came up with some really corny ideas of things that I could do. And
I had to take the pictures.
And you had to take the pictures. But this is what we came up with. We wanted something a little bit mild. We had some really great other opportunities, but we went with something mild. The cover is new. Still has the same logo, but a different cover.
Mm-hmm. You're making me do this video. That's new.
Making do this video. So the whole idea here is, as I was saying, to have Tammy on the show. So I can't get her yet to co-host it. So you're not going to see her every time. You're not going to hear her every time, but I've come up with this idea that she's buying into slowly that is called Talking with Tammy. Talking with Tammy is just going to be every once in a while. In all honesty, when we've 34 years of marriage, we do a lot of talking about things and situations going on in our lives and in society, and we talk about those things in light of Scripture. Mm-hmm. And you have really great insight, and so I think that when those occasions come up that we are talking and we're like, I think that you need to share that. That's going to be one of those times that we'll just toss in maybe a bonus episode of Talking with Tammy. So I like it.
Yeah, well.
You make fun of a lot of ideas I have. But,
I do.
Yeah.
You give me a lot of material.
Okay, so yeah, the cover image, Talking with Tammy.
Yep.
And...
help me.
We are recording video now.
Oh, video.
Did you forget about video?
I did forget about video.
So, I have a lot of friends that have podcasts and are doing really well, and I never could understand why you would record video for a podcast, because I listen to podcasts when I'm mowing the lawn, I'm taking trips, in bed at night at 8 o'clock when you fall asleep. I pop in the earbuds. I listen to podcasts. Maybe not 8, but I stay up later. But I like listening to podcasts. But I'm realizing that there is a group of people out there that likes to watch them too. So, when we have guests on, you'll be able to see them and you'll be able to feel maybe more a part of what's going on, because you'll be able to interact with it visually as well. And it also gives us an opportunity to share things, like as we're talking about certain things, that we may be able to share images that our guests are sharing, or things like that. So check us out.
Song?
Maybe a song.
Yeah. I heard that one.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah, we've got a song coming up.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. We're doing this one first. Mm-hmm. This will be a kickoff. This is really not an episode. It's more of this is our reboot. So we are kind of just coming together and saying, hey, welcome back. Here's what's going on. Here's where we've been. But also, so the next episode, which is going to air along with this one, so you can get 2 episodes.
I like those.
2 episodes in 1 week. This one, and we're going to have a guest that I've really, really wanted to come on the show for a long time. Ryan Baumberger is going to be the first official show of season 5. And if you don't know Ryan Baumberger, Google him, because he's got, you're gonna learn about him here in just a few minutes if you listen to the episode right after this. But he's a tremendous guy, tremendous family, very much pro-life. And for those of you that are not pro-life, I encourage you, I plead with you to listen to this episode. He's not bashing anyone over the head with the pro-life. He's explaining it, and it makes so much sense. And he's got an extra special interest in this because
I don't think you should tell it.
There's something about Ryan that really is a part of his life. It's a part of the story. I won't tell you. That's a cliffhanger. So, see, that's why you balance me. I would have told.
Yeah, I don't think
so.
You should.
Listen,
I think it should draw them.
Listen to the next episode, and you gave a hint of the 3rd episode. In episode 55, the one right after Ryan, the following week on I think the 8th, August 8th, is going to be really cool guy with a really cool story. He may just share a song with us.
Yeah. And that particular gentleman you were notified by our son's girlfriend.
Yeah. That
she happened to be at an event where she saw him and said, "You've got to check him out."
Yeah, and she was not wrong. She was not wrong. This is one of my favorite. I have lots of favorite episodes. We've done 50, we've done like 55, 56 episodes now. 53, I think, have aired, and this is one of my favorites because he's so sincere. He's got such a big heart, and he's got an amazing story, so you don't want to miss that. I would say the same about Ryan as well. Lots of great guests coming up on the schedule. Some of them we've just recorded. Some of them are yet to be recorded. They're scheduled. So looking forward to it. Man, and I want to thank you guys for helping us out. When this podcast started, I told you that, I asked you if you would listen. Mm-hmm. And she said yes. So I knew that.
And I don't listen to podcasts.
So I knew that Tammy would listen. And I hoped, deep down, that my mom would. So I figured I would have 2 listeners to my podcast. And I really did. I didn't expect it to do very much.
And now you've even got my 93-year-old stepfather, who new to the iPhone but figured out podcasts, and he is a fan.
He's probably not watching, but shout out to Sam.
Yeah.
He's one of my fans. I really didn't think it would do much, but I felt like God was calling me to do it, and that's kind of a part of the story of the whole Conversations of Hope, is that, and you're going to hear some of this in the next couple of episodes, is don't ever discount yourself. Don't ever count yourself out, not good enough, not qualified, not whatever. Because if God can use me through this podcast, he can use anybody. I really mean that. And so we are now in, I just looked, it's unbelievable. I have thousands and thousands of downloads of this show. I'm in like 48 countries, pretty much regular listeners, not just one-time hits. It's amazing, and stories that are coming from some of these episodes. This is not about me. This is really about, first of all, the guests who are on the show really make the show. They share their stories. I encourage people to share their stories because we can all learn from one another's stories. And in this particular coming season, I'm really excited because I've had people that come to me and say, I really would like to share my story. And that's really fun to see that happen. So, so stick around. Those are some of the new things coming up in the podcast. Why don't we talk about why we do the podcast? We already kind of alluded to that, but so this started. It was very intentional. When it started, I went to you and I said, "Man, this was like 3 or 4 years ago." I went to you and I said, you know, having been in the adoption world, my other job was in the adoption world for almost 18 years. And so I did a lot of traveling. I traveled all over the country and met some really awesome families who then became social media friends. And so I followed their stories. I knew their family, and it was fun watching that. But there was a period of time, and it was right before COVID started, maybe about a year before COVID started, that I started scrolling through social media and seeing these really heavy things that these families were going through. I'm talking about medical diagnosis, divorce, losing family members, people that are really close. It's really tough stuff, and I just felt like I felt like I just wanted to be with them and just give them a hug and say, look, I can't help you through this time, but I know God can get you through it, and just encourage them in that. And but there were so many, I really couldn't even reach out to all of them. Mm-hmm. So I started talking to you, and we came up with this idea of a podcast where I could bring people on and say, you know, even though I've not been there, these people have been there. They know what you're going through. They can understand the struggles and the challenges that those who have not been through it can understand. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, we know Jesus walked on this earth, and he went through all the struggles that we go through, and that's the hope part. And yeah.
I think over the past several years, especially with COVID,
yeah.
People have really lost a lot of hope. They've everything that was stable is no longer stable. Where I work, we went through a very large situation where people lost their jobs.
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't even go to the grocery store to get toilet paper because you didn't have any.
Yeah.
So it just, all the instability, if you didn't have Jesus, then there was nowhere to look. And I think that having something that you could look to for hope, hearing people having situations where they were struggling but they were able to get through it with Jesus makes a big difference.
Well, I know for us, it seemed like one of those apocalyptic movies when COVID started and we started wearing masks, and then we couldn't go anywhere, and everybody worked from home and school shut down. It seemed really wild. It seemed like an apocalyptic movie.
And for the introvert, we may have enjoyed it.
Yeah, we didn't enjoy the pandemic, but we enjoyed the results of the pandemic as far as just staying home.
Just the four of us.
Yeah,
I
but
like that.
But it really did. It seemed apocalyptic, and it was scary. I understood the fear that was rampant in society. You couldn't. Well, for a while you couldn't go to the stores, and then when the stores opened, it was like so many people in the store at a time. Shelves were empty. That added to the fear, and but for us and for many of our friends who are believers, we understood the impact that it was having, and we understood how serious it was. It wasn't flippant, like we just didn't matter. It did matter. But we had a peace about this. We knew that this didn't take God by surprise. Mm-hmm. And so that's what you're referring to, is really that foundation. When you have that foundation that is Jesus Christ, that is the same yesterday, today, and forever, you don't have to be afraid of those kind of things that happen. We're human. There were times when we're like, do we get vaccinated? Do we not? Do we go out in public? Do we not? Do we wear a mask? Do we not? All those things that were going on. There were certainly some concerns, but ultimately we knew we could lay our head down on a pillow at night and know that we had the confidence that God was in control.
Right.
And I saw a lot of people, and even in the media, lots of panic going on and hoarding and things, and that was a little bit scary to see that. But I would encourage you, through that pandemic, if you're not a follower of Jesus, that was one thing that I think we really grew in our faith, going, okay, we are on firm ground, and our foundation is not going to crumble, regardless of what happens.
Yeah.
So let's talk about where we were.
How long ago?
Yeah. Well, it was during the pandemic, but it was actually in September of last year, September of 2021. Mm-hmm. I got a call. I was at work, and I got a call, and it was, I have to say, I knew it was coming. I worked with an adoption agency, Christian adoption agency, for years. Was on about 17 and a half years, and I got the call that I was going to be laid off. Through the pandemic, even before that, through the political situations, the landscape of adoption, international adoption in general, was really, really hard. Adoption was hard. We adopted our daughter from China in 2003. That was hard. There was lots of paperwork and lots of unknowns, but working for an agency is really, really hard. And so I knew it was coming. When the call came, even as I'm on the phone, I remember actually sitting right here and thinking, this is going to be okay. Mm-hmm. I had a peace about it. And then I had to tell you.
You did.
And I wasn't sure exactly how that was going to go over. You knew too. We had talked and said, these are really difficult times. People are losing their jobs. The agency's not doing really well because people couldn't travel. People weren't interested in adoption because there's so much uncertainty. But then I had to tell you when I got the call.
Yeah, I thought it was odd when you said, "Hey, do you want to meet for lunch?"
I don't often do that because my job has always been working remotely, and most of the time it's like 2 or 3 o'clock, and I'm like, I'm kind of hungry, and totally missed lunch. But that day I called you and I said, hey, let's do lunch.
Yeah.
Did we have lunch that day?
We did. You
I think
came
we
and
did
picked
eat.
me up.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Well, I knew I picked you up. I didn't remember if we actually ate or not, but we did.
Yeah.
We ran through, and your response when I told you
I may have given you a high five.
was high five, which kind of surprised me.
Well, as your wife, I watched you for all those years very much putting your whole heart into the job and into helping orphans. And it had gotten rough for a while.
It was rough.
And I watched you, like you had mentioned earlier, saying you're not good enough, your worth isn't there. I watched that diminish in you over the years, and I was ready for you to have a new start somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, when your job is really, I mean, it was. I was in a marketing position, but we don't like to say marketing kids because it's not what you're doing. But I was really advocating for orphans, and when there are no orphans to advocate for, because we're not allowed to go to these countries to have these children adopted. It feels like when you leave, even though you're working so hard every day, it feels like you're not doing your job because you're not seeing the results. And thus the reason why I knew that, I probably wasn't going to be around much longer. But one thing we knew was God had this.
Yeah.
We both had that feeling. Even as I was on the phone and listening to the conversation and realizing, how this was going to impact just our family. It was reality, but I had such a peace about it.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, hopefully that will rub off on you.
It did.
And it did.
Except I had it before
you had it.
Yeah.
God had given you a peace about it as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then you applied for how many jobs?
Honestly, probably 80, 90, 100 jobs. We started with the unemployment thing, but I really quickly learned that unemployment is not for me. So I got a job doing trivia in town, making pretty good money, but doing trivia, hosting trivia, doing video jobs, photo jobs, working at my church and other things. And we kind of, at some point, we just said we don't want unemployment anymore because it was such a hassle. But anyway, yeah, probably 80, 90, 100 jobs that I applied for.
And didn't hear back from one.
Not a peep.
Not one
Not
of them.
a peep. That's when I started going about 2.5 months. Once my severance pay quit, it was rubber meets the road. We knew it was coming and hadn't heard a peep from anybody. And I have to say, I did not lose hope. I still had a confidence, but my earthly self was going, maybe we should panic. I never did. We never did.
No.
I kept applying. I kept praying. And then I saw, I was on a lot of job sites every day for hours, scrolling through lots of sites, looking for very specific. I knew I wanted ministry, but I was open to something else. I was really open to saying, just God, wherever you want me, that's where I want to be. But I definitely had a leaning toward, continuing in ministry. And so I found one that very much caught my eye, and that was
Covenant Eyes.
Covenant Eyes, which we had heard about, over the years. Covenant Eyes is, which we'll talk about on the podcast. In fact, we're gonna talk to our CEO and founder, Ron DeHaas, who I have tremendous respect for. He's such a great guy. Covenant Eyes is not a porn blocker. It does have porn blocking built into it, so it's considered software as a service. but it does have a porn blocker built into it. But really, what makes Covenant Eyes different from most of the others, and this is something Ron started really early on when he created Covenant Eyes, was he didn't want just a porn blocker because he realized that young kids needed that blocking. They didn't need to see things that they didn't need to see. But he also realized as they get older into their teen years that you can't just block explicit content on their devices, that they really need to understand and learn how to control that. And so there's an accountability aspect in Covenant Eyes that makes it amazing. I really believe in it, which helps when you work for a company you believe in.
Yeah.
And I do. I believe in the product. I believe in the Christian base behind it. It is a for-profit company. It's not a nonprofit, but they very much are Christian-based, Christ-centered. And so I really love that about them. Yeah.
But it was pretty quickly after you applied and you got your first, I don't remember, was it an email or a phone call? I don't remember.
I think I had a phone call. I was at the university here in town, and I got a phone call. Was kind of hoping and expecting it, but when it rang and I saw that it was from that area code, I quickly left my meeting and went out in the hallway.
Yeah, and things kind of moved quickly after that, and we just knew that this is probably it. Yeah,
I had one interview, then I had another interview, then I had another interview. I think I had 3 or 4 interviews, and then they said, we're going to set up a meeting between you and our founder and CEO, Ron DeHaas. And I was like, would they have a meeting with me if they weren't hiring me? Part of me was going, no, they wouldn't do that. And another part of me was like, don't get your hopes up.
Yeah.
And I remember
that we had our hopes up.
We had our hopes up. And I think God was really helping to settle within us that this was it.
Yeah.
So.
And then, he came through with the job and with a salary that matched what we needed. And
actually, I'd ask for when you have to write down what salary you want, and you're like, I don't know, I don't want to disqualify myself. So I put down, because I was unemployed, I put down what I was making previously. Mm-hmm. And when I got the job offer, they actually came in higher than what I had asked for.
Yeah,
which was unheard of, I think, anyway. But in this pandemic situation and all the uncertainty, for them to actually come to me and say, we know what you asked for, but here's what we want to offer you, was confirmation to me that God was in this.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's where we've been. So that happened in September, and my first day of the job was March 7th of 2022. Mm-hmm. I've been working there. Love the staff. Love the mission. Love what they do, and I really enjoy my job. And that's really just one conversation of hope that has happened to us over the past span of 10 months now. And so really good stuff. We wanted to share with you to let you know why we have not been having podcasts, but so it's been really good.
Yeah. So if you find yourself maybe in a similar situation where it's time to maybe jump out of the boat like Peter did and just kind of begin to walk on that water, but unlike Peter, keep your eyes on Jesus and you won't begin to fall. I think that we tend to take our eyes off quite a bit and start to slip down a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, that's important. Even with the new job, I was just so overwhelmed that I started really looking at like this is so great, I love what I'm doing. And all of a sudden I was like, wait a second, this was a gift from God. This is not the end. This is not the finish line. This is just God saying, I've got you. And really then redirecting my eyes back to Him and us saying, we know life is hard. It doesn't always work out the way we want. But when you do, like Peter, start taking your eyes and looking off at the storms around you, and you start to sink, Jesus is there to reach out and grab you and keep you from sinking. And that's what we experienced through that whole thing was that our foundation was secure. We knew where we stood, and it was not going to move. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good, really true. And that's why our podcast exists, just to encourage you guys, to remind you to keep your eyes on Jesus through this journey we call life. We have some really great guests, as I said, and they want to encourage us and inspire us and challenge us to keep growing in areas that maybe we don't want to grow in, areas where we're comfortable. Those are the areas we need to shine the light in and make sure that our whole lives are really focused on Jesus, and that we allow Him to work in our lives. We talked about our first guest, Ryan Baumberger, amazing guy. Want you to hear that, and then also after that, the following week will be Brandon Scott, who has another amazing story, and we've got others. We've already got stuff lined up for you. I'm excited for you to hear it. But finally, if we could just get your help, we really do need your help. We have done a lot of stuff on the back end over the last 10 months, even though we haven't had podcasts. We've done a lot of stuff to really, because we believe God is in this, we want to do it with excellence. And we've done a lot of work behind the scenes to make this the best show we can make it. So first of all, if you could give us a little bit of your time by subscribing to the podcast, that makes a huge difference. Subscribing will make sure that you get a notification every time we have an episode. Even though it's weekly, we may throw a bonus in there, or something may come up where we have an unexpected episode released, and you can know when that happens by subscribing. Second, if you're listening on Apple Podcast or another podcast app that has ratings and reviews, if you could just take a few minutes and just give us a 5-star rating and review the podcast, tell other people about it through that, because that helps tremendously for us to get more exposure and to grow the show. And that's really what it's about. It's no more. It's not about anything other than just reaching as many people as we can. And you can help us to do that by reviewing, rating, subscribing, and also follow us on our website, behindthemic.net.
Did you forget?
I did. behindthemic.net, and it's not MIC. It's Behind the Mic, MIKE. I got a little creative there in the beginning years. Behind the Mic, MIKE.net. And you're going to be able to listen to the podcast there. You'll be able to go to the link for watching the podcast there. You'll be able to sign up for our newsletter. We're going to do some cool things if you're subscribed to the newsletter, but you have to be subscribed, so make sure you do that. We're not going to inundate you with a bunch of email, a bunch of junk. We don't sell our email list. But we want to keep you informed, so you can do that as well.
Yep. It only does really take 1 or 2 minutes, and that would really help out.
Would help out a lot. Thanks for joining us. Come back. Listen to Talking with Tammy the next time. We may change the name. I don't know. I like it.
Or we don't have to have it.
No, we will have it. She signed a contract. It's been notarized. Thanks for joining us. We really do appreciate you guys. It's good to be back. We can't wait to hear from you. So follow us on social media, comment, leave comments on YouTube, email us. You can email us at mike@milestonecreative.net. Milestone Creative is the company under which we create the podcast. So mike@milestonecreative.net. Email us. Tell us what you're thinking. We want to hear the good, the bad. We want to make this the best we can for you. And remember, if your life is grounded in Jesus, even in the darkest times, there's hope.
There's hope.